Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to SST Guru, and this is the first video of SST Guru, and it deals with the lesson power sharing. The first lesson is a stark contrast between Belgium and Sri Lanka. Belgium is in Europe. You see this country, small country in pink color. This is Belgium. It is surrounded by France, Germany, and Netherlands. Needless to say, in France people speak French. Germans are in Germany, they speak German, and in Netherlands they speak Dutch. So it's natural that a country, it has immigrants from France, from Germany, and from the Dutch. So what is the reason for immigration, or emigration, in the sense, what is the reason why people migrate from one country to another? There are just two reasons basically, to sum up all of the reasons. One is food. In search of food you go to another country. You in search of good job you go to another country. Why do you need a job? Because you need food. And in search of good life, you want to live, and so you go to another country. Many Tamil people who are basically Sri Lankan Tamils sought refuge in Tamil Nadu, that is India. They were afraid for their lives and they came to India. So migration basically occurs because of just these two reasons. One is food and the other one is life. So in Belgium we have a people which has a mixed composition of French, German, and the Dutch. And let me also tell you the geographical composition of these people. You see, the southern portion of Belgium, that is the one which is near to France, has a majority concentration of the French people. The north has the majority of concentration of the Dutch, and Germans are scattered all over the country and a little over here. So this is natural. The countries are near. They migrated to places near the country. So needless to say, any explanation there, because France is near, people are more French here. Because Dutch is here, the people more Dutch people are found here. Okay, so let us get into detail of this ethnic composition of Belgium. The population composition of Belgium and Brussels, there is a stark difference between these two. In Belgium, you see that the 59% of the people are the Dutch, 40% people are French, and just 1% German. Okay, so this is for whole Belgium as a country as a whole. But Brussels, which is the capital of Belgium, it is dominated by the French to a remarkable number. That is 80% of the people who live in the capital of Belgium, that is Brussels, are French, and just 20% of the people in Brussels are the Dutch. But you see here, the Dutch are in majority in the whole country, but why not in the capital? And hence, there was a small sort of difference of opinions and tensions between the French and the Dutch in Belgium. So this was a small kind of problem in Belgium. And let us now go on to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka also faced some similar problems. So now let me detail you about the ethnic composition of Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, you see, it is very near to India. It is just about less than 100 kilometers from Rameshwaram, which is a famous uh, there is a famous temple for Lord Shiva in Rameshwaram. It's a good place for pilgrimage, and it's very near to Sri Lanka. It's less than 100 kilometers. So naturally, needless to say, Tamils are migrated here. This is Tamil Nadu, and people from Tamil Nadu migrated to Sri Lanka in search of better opportunities for Sri Lanka. Okay, so the Sri Lanka, it has majorly two ethnic people. One is Sinhalese and the other one is Tamil. So let me get on to the detail of the ethnic composition in Sri Lanka. Sinhala people are 74% in Sri Lanka. That means that they are more than what is required for an majority. A simple majority is 50. You are 51. He is 50. That means you win. So, but here you see it is 74%. It is very much higher than 50. So you have an absolute majority of Sinhala people, and you have Tamil people of 18%, and Sri Lankan Tamils. Tamil, what is the difference between Tamil and Sri Lankan Tamil? Sri Lankan Tamils are basically ethnic, they belong ethnically to Sri Lanka, and these Tamils are the recently migrated people to Sri Lanka who migrated during the period of British as plantation workers. There are a lot of plantations in Sri Lanka, and these Tamils migrated to Sri Lanka to work in those plantations. So you see, naturally, when there is a difference of this much, these people tend to tend to bully over the people who are minority. So that's what happened that precisely. So the crisis of Sri Lanka is that in 1956 what happened is that the Sri Lankan parliament passed an act which recognized Sinhala as the only official language, in the sense Sinhala will be the only language that will be used for all government communications and whatnot, for each and everything. So that is a problem with this word only. Okay. uh, so that is the main root cause of the problem. So what happened was, the Tamil people, who naturally wouldn't be knowing Sinhala that much, would not be getting government jobs, so that they were deprived of their job opportunities. Okay. And they were deprived of education in universities, schools, and all other educational institutions, and the government adopted a favoritism towards Sinhala people in jobs. That's what I said now. And the state fostered a Buddhist ideology. A Buddhist ideology, in the sense, let me tell you another fact, that the Sinhalese are mostly Buddhists, whereas the Tamils are mostly Hindus or Muslims, or a small part of Christians. And also you have a small part of Christians, which is very small, and it doesn't make that big impact. So the Tamils were in Hindus, Muslims, and Christians. So naturally, you see, when you don't get jobs, when you're deprived of opportunities, you don't earn a good living. That means you would be treated like a slave, more or less. So the Tamils were clearly discriminated, so they could not earn their living being in Sri Lanka. So they demanded a Tamil Elam. Elam in Tamil means home. Okay, that's what is known as Tamil Elam. They wanted a separate home or separate country for the Tamils in Sri Lanka. They wanted a Tamil Elam. Okay, if you'd have seen the film Madras Cafe, you would better understand the situation. Okay, so what happened is that the government did not accept this demand, and hence there started a civil war between the government and the Tamil forces. The civil war was really very bloody, in the sense there were so much of loss of lives, and there were countless human rights violations. Women and children were also not spared, and needless to say, what all human rights violations occurred, we don't know. It's not documented. So this was the major problem in Sri Lanka, and we call it a crisis, a Sri Lankan crisis. So this was the kind of crisis which existed in Sri Lanka. Belgium, it also did not have much violence over there, but the situations were same both in Belgium and Sri Lanka. More or less, they were both close. But Belgium had a good solution. It is called the Belgian solution, according to me. And hence, like I told you, there were tensions between the Dutch and French in the 1950s and 1960s. So, in these tensions, what they did was, they could have easily wanted an separation of the country. This is Belgium. There would have been a partition. They could have demanded for a partition, this being the Dutch and this being the French. You know, the France is here, and here was Netherlands, and here was Germany. So they could have demanded a partition, but that did not occur. In the period between 1970 to 1993, they made several constitutional amendments. Constitution, let me tell you, Constitution is the book which the government follows. The Constitution is the only rule book that guides the government on how to do, what to do, and sometimes when to do also. and they made constitutional amendments to settle their differences. So let me brief to you about those amendments. So what they made was that in the Belgian parliament, the number of ministers shall be equal for both the Dutch and the French. You remember the French were a minority in the total country and were a majority in Brussels, but they both were represented equally. Why were they represented equally? Because no community can take a decision single-handedly. In the sense, the French cannot take a decision against a Dutch, or a Dutch cannot take a decision against a French without the support of either one of the people. So this was the kind of solution that was one of the major first solution for this. The second solution which they provided was decentralization. Decentralization is a process in which the central government gives some of its powers to the state government, and the state government may further give it down to the local governments. So basically, decentralization is division of power between the central government, state governments, and the local governments. Why actually do we need a decentralization? So this is a potential question for you. Decentralization is required because the local governments, that is the smaller governments, know better the local needs of the people. What you need is better understood by a village sarpanch better than the minister or a IAS officer who is sitting in Delhi. So this is the main reason of decentralization. The local people know better of what you need. So that is the reason of decentralization. So the Brussels, apart from this, we had other solutions too. So the third one was Brussels will have a separate government. You see, Brussels had a stark opposite to the country's majority. There was about 80% of the French people, and the Dutch were only 20%, whereas the Dutch were majority in the whole country. So in that Brussels also, the Dutch, even being just 20%, they got equal representation. So they were really magnanimous to get this decision, I believe. So to settle out differences, they had equal representation even in the Brussels. Apart from the center and the state, they had a community government. A community government is a special type of government which will take decisions only on cultural, educational, and linguistic issues. A linguistic means language related. Okay, so community government was a government which deals majorly with just these three problems. That is cultural, educational, and linguistic. And another major feature of this community government is a person, irrespective of which part he lives in. He may be in any part of Belgium, here. You saw this is a major portion. This belonged to the Dutch. This was the French, and a little here was German. So a French living here could vote only for a French person in the community government, and a Dutch living here will also vote for a community government, and he will vote only for a Dutch candidate. So in this, the Dutch vote for the Dutch, the French vote for the French, and likewise. So this was a unique feature of community government, and so far I have not heard of any other country having this. So these are the four sandwich solutions which were so concrete, and it was so successful that Belgium is very much in peace now, and it is the headquarters for the European Union. The whole European Union's headquarters is located in Brussels. So that was the impact of this solution. If this solution was not have formulated, there would have been a civil war like in Sri Lanka, which should have led to possibly a partition, or France annexing Belgium, or I don't know what not could have happened. So this is the Belgian solution. So in one side you see the problem occurred, and the other side they solved it. That is how the approach of the problem matters. So this is one of the most important sentences in the lesson. Unity of the country is possible only by respecting the feelings of different communities, regions, and also religions. Religions, Hindu, Muslim, or Christians, whatever it may be, and how small may be their population or their percentage of contribution to the GDP and whatnot. If there are different communities, you need to give respect to the feelings of the different communities. to be peaceful. So only in that case will a country be united. Else, like in what happened in Sri Lanka, they would be demanding for a separate country or an elam. Okay, so a good example for that was Belgium. A bad example for what happened is of Sri Lanka. So you would have also experienced in your daily lives. It is a lesson to us in your day-to-day life, right? You have a person who says, "I want to be the wicket keeper only," even though he will not be a good wicket keeper. You also need to give him a chance. Else, what he would do, he would leave a boundary for you just because you didn't give him a chance for wicket keeping. And also the class monitors, I think they face this problem very often. A person who does not like him will just complain to a teacher without me doing anything. Ma'am, he just writes my name in the board. So this happens to us in day-to-day life. So what do we learn from this lesson is that we should give importance to each and every person in our team and his feelings, so that the team is united. Only when the team is united you can win the race. You see, a car, imagine this is a car. See, all the wheels of it should be in the same size. Though these are not in the same size, they need to be in the same size. If they are not, or if one wheel is absent, what happens is the car it will be like this. Without one wheel, it cannot move. Even without one person in a team, the team cannot succeed. So it is important for you people to respect everyone in your team and promote them. Apart from this, let me come back to the lesson now. Why power sharing? So what are the reason for power sharing? So it is the reduce the possibility of a conflict. Remember Sri Lanka, there was a civil war. Here it's a conflict. It reduces the possibility of a conflicts between social groups, and it is the very spirit of democracy. In a democracy, apart from the majoritarianism, you also have one more feature. If you're going to take a decision that, say, affects a community X, then you should have a person who represents the community X in the decision making process. So if you're going to take a decision that is going to affect a community X, then you should have a representative from a community X for the decision making process. So that is the spirit of democracy. So without power sharing, you don't have that. The spirit of democracy, the very spirit of democracy is power sharing. So in a social conflict, it also leads to violence, political instability and economic degradation. I had already told you about the degradation of the economy in Sri Lanka. The country had to concentrate much for the arms of the civil war. They had to supply ammunition and they had to fund their army to fight. So they could not develop economically very good. So it leads to economic degradation. Imposing the will, and the next is imposing the will of the majority will not have a long run. In a majority government, you also need to give a representation for the people who are in minority. Else what it happens is this Mr. X, he can rise and revolt, and it can lead to what is all these things. This is the political instability and economic degradation, violence, etc. So this is the last slide which I'm going to explain so you can be happy. So these are the different forms of power sharing. What are the different forms of power sharing? This can also be a major question, possibly one which is carrying higher marks. So it can be shared among different organs of the government. So different organs of the government, like you may know, it is the legislature, executive, and the judiciary. Legislature is the one which makes laws. Executive is the one which implements the law. Judiciary is the one which punishes the people who do not follow that law. As simple as that. So a government has all these three functions, that is making law, implementing law, and punishing people who do not follow that law. So the power is shared between the legislature, executive, and the judiciary. The executive will not interfere in legislative or judiciary, and it is the same case is true with legislature and judiciary too. They don't interfere with each other, and hence the government shares its power, and hence it functions at a greater efficiency. So this is the first form of power sharing. And the second form of power sharing is among the governments, among the different levels of the governments. As I told you already before, in Belgium, the state governments were given more power, and this is what I was telling at that time also. It is the among the governments, different levels of the government, they share the power, and this is also known as the federal division of the power. And question, you may not get the same word among how is power shared among different levels of the government. You may get what is the federal division of power, that is the power sharing between the government, state governments and other local governments. So this was the second point. And coming to the third point, among different social groups, example, let me tell you with an example because that's when you can understand better. A government in Belgium, in a government in Belgium, you had a community government in which you had representation even for the 20% Dutch people. In the 20% in capital were Dutch, and they were given half the seats in the Brussels Parliament. And similarly, you have reservation for women and reserved constituencies. Reservation of women is given in all government offices and also in the parliament, and reserved constituencies are those constituencies in which a person belonging only to that particular category, that may be a minority, that is X, can contest in that constituency. And these constituencies keep on rotating. It is not necessary that a constituency which can be only be contested by a person belonging to a category of X will be the same for all the years which comes. It just keeps on rotating. Now it may be my constituency, tomorrow it may be my neighbor's constituency, and like that likewise. So this is the third one. And the fourth and the final form of power sharing which is given in our book is it is among the political parties. To keep it simple, it is a coalition government. A coalition government is one in which power is shared between two or more political parties. No single political party gets a simple majority. Hence, people from different political parties come together and form a government. The recent our central government is a recent example for that, which is the NDA, National Democratic Alliance. And the very recent and the newest coalition in our country is one which is followed in JNK, that is Jammu and Kashmir, where a common minimum program which is being executed between the PDP and the BJP is also an example of sharing of power between the political parties, in which you have a CM who belongs to PDP and who have a deputy CM who belongs to BJP. So this is a form of power sharing between different political parties. Both parties represent different ideologies and they both get to share the power. So these are the four types of power sharing, and with this we'll come to the end of the lesson. Can post your comments, queries, and whatnot below the comment section, below this video in the comment section of YouTube. And I want you to visit the page facebook.com/sstguru to like, share and subscribe to this video. In the Facebook page you can get regular updates of what I post in my website as well as in YouTube. I'll update you about the new videos, about the new notes, question banks, and whatever I do, it will be there in facebook.com/sstguru. Fine guys, thank you all for seeing this video and hope it helped you. And this is Sricharan helping you in your success.